We are live. Welcome back to the garden and welcome back to On the Page. If you're new here, I'm Tamiel. On the Page is a virtual writing space where we come together to write and reflect without a focus on an outcome or urgency to figure out what we want to say. It's a space to kind of just guide us into gentle reflection on things that deserve witnessing and deserve looking at. Okay. Today, I'm feeling grounded and relaxed. So grounded and relaxed. I went to the hot springs with my friends yesterday, and it was just such a good time. It was such a good time. It actually put me in a intentional space to be able to think about what I wanted to talk about today. And I'm glad that I just had the opportunity to invite rest in a way that felt so aligned with what I needed right now. I needed some time to just sit and pass time and enjoy myself and be in good company and laugh and in joy and happiness. And it felt good. Today I'm drinking a Taya Bliss because I needed something to help just open me up, my chest, my breathing, clear my mental, help clarify my mental because it's just been a lot on my mind. And Ataya Bliss is a mint focus blend, so it's really good for relaxing the nervous system, but also helping to clarify the mental. It is one of my clarifying blends, focused specifically on mental fog, mental fatigue, just all of the draining of our energy through the mental processing of life in the day to day. And not that I'm processing a lot of heaviness, but I am processing a lot. And so I wanted to drink something today to help me kind of balance out that energy. And Natalia Bliss is serving well. I have some fresh mint leaves in it today in honor of the Ataya tea ceremony that the blend kind of pays homage to. And that's my fresh mint back there growing that this came from. And I just took a few leaves off, put them in my cup, and take the tea and pour it right over on top. And the thing with the Ataya tea ceremony is they do it in 3 different rounds to honor the bitter or the strength of life, the balance of life, where they add a little bit of sugar and then they add a lot more sugar to pay homage to the sweetness of life, the joy, the happiness. So today I'm sipping in honor of that. It's still Black History Month. It's still Black History Month. So happy Black History Month. I would say one of the ancestors that's really sitting with me this month is Octavia Butler. And just the ways that she really claimed for herself what she wanted in this life, what she wanted for her career, how many people, the kinds of people that she wanted her work to reach. Right now, I was introduced to Octavia Butler through Kindred. And if you haven't read that book, that's a really good sci-fi fantasy book, that historical fiction fantasy book that brings in the history of the antebellum South and our ancestors' journey with the pain of that time, the weight of that time, and the way that she kind of brought it into the future and kind of juxtapose those two realities against each other. It's a really good book. Just the intro into the world building that Octavia Butler does with her work. But I'm reading Fledgling. This is a book about a young woman who wakes up. Well, from I'm just starting it, but from what I can see, it's a young woman who wakes up in a cave. She's forgotten a lot of her past life. She's forgotten where she's coming from. She's forgotten everything. But as she's starting to be exposed to things and exposed to, I guess, the world around her, people around her, the new reality that she's in, she's starting to remember things that she learned, but she don't remember where she learned these things. What she also comes to understand is that she's a vampire, and that even though she's, physically in a very young presenting vessel, human body, she is a lot older in consciousness and, reality in terms of what she knows about the world and the way that she interacts with the world. She knows that she's a lot older, and that she's a vampire, right? So it's a really interesting book to kind of look at and think about exposure and conditioning and the things that we're taught, where we're taught the things that we're taught, who we're taught the things that we're taught from, like we talked about in the last on the page. And Octavia Butler is just so sacred to me because I love the way that she kind of pulls from what she knows and pulls from where she comes from and introduces that into this future forward thinking that she does in her work. And I kind of want to use that today as like a framework from which to explore what we'll be talking about, and then ultimately what we'll be writing about. This will be a short session today because I have some things I need to flow through and journey through today. But in the spirit of consistency, we are here to show up and write. So let's do that. Today, I kind of want us to think about and look at this scarcity narrative, especially in the context of what we talked about last week and transcending the impossible, or transcending the possible and coming into the impossible and learning more about what we can experience in life and in the worlds that we create for ourselves. As promised, I brought the On the Page zine from which we wrote a little bit from last week. And today we'll be writing from the second prompt or page in the zine. And I make these zines on Canva, but I pull the prompts together based on my own self-study, which is what the Woman in the Garden was created to honor and kind of invite community into, was my self-study process and the books that I'm reading, the things that I'm writing about, the things that I'm thinking about, and to also kind of explore what y'all are thinking about, what y'all are reading, what y'all are writing about. So this zine will be available on the MAATI'S Tea Time website soon, in addition to other zines that we'll be writing from in this process. But today, like I said, the prompt that we'll be writing from, the idea that we'll be thinking from, is the scarcity narrative. And the thing about scarcity that I'm wanting to be intentional about looking at and reflecting on is how to move away from the things that keep me small while also preserving the things that are authentic to who I am, especially in a world that has conditioned me to believe that me as I am, as a Black queer woman, that already is supposed to make me smaller. That already is supposed to make me define myself as someone who doesn't deserve to take up space in the world. So understanding that that's not something that I need to move away from. That is a part of who I am. That is a part of how I show up in the world. And still, there's this element of scarcity, even in that reality, even in the realities of those different realities, that still needs to be looked at, and that still needs to be, set aside and buried and composted into something new, new soil to plant new seeds in terms of how these realities can be made bigger, and how I can live more expansive in my Blackness, in my queerness, in my womanhood, in my creativity, in my spirituality, in me. So that is what I was saying in terms of the way that I like how Octavia Butler brings what she know is this is what we're building from. This is the foundation from which everything else gains fruit from. I need the aspects of my identity that help me define my reality in this world, and still looking at and reflecting on the things that keep me small in those realities, and the ways that we can even be able to conceive I don't know, new ways to help other people think about how they can live bigger in the things that I think we all share as a collective. We all share a collective Black reality. We share a collective queer experience. We share a collective experience as women, as feminine identifying people, as gender expansive people who identify with the experience of womanhood. Like, we can all help each other think and imagine much bigger worlds to exist in where everybody else can be more full and expressive in themselves by just envisioning a bigger reality in our own experience. And so the prompt that we'll be writing from today kind of just invites us to think about the scarcity narrative overall, not just in terms of money, not just in terms of resources, not just in terms of time, not just in terms of community, family support, but like really the things that keep us small in the individual ways that we show up in life. Like, how are you keeping yourself small in how you're honoring Black History Month this month? Are you just, using social media to take in new ways to understand your Blackness, or are you finding different ways to connect to that in your day-to-day experience? Like, what does Blackness even mean to you? What does being a Black person even mean to you? That in itself is a small way that you can expand your personal perspective, your personal understanding, your personal position and showing up in the day to day, that again helps you expand that reality for everybody else around you, and what you're exposing the people that are around you to, how you're exposing them to the ways that you're getting bigger. And whether or not they decide to get bigger with you is solely their choice, but there's always more than enough space in this world for you to take up. And that's just what I'm wanting us to kind of think about, is where we want to take up space in this world and where we can be more authentic in how we're taking up that space, not just doing stuff because it's trendy, not just, taking on labels or identities or roles or positions in the world because it looks good, but like what really feels good and how you want to show up in the world. So yeah, that's that's what we'll be thinking about, writing about, talking about today. And I said I did want to keep this short, so I'm going to introduce the prompt. We're going to write for 2 to 3 minutes today. And I want to invite you to continue to write even after this space today. I want to invite you to continue to meditate and just think about these things. Like I say on the page and every other way that I've shown up, you don't have to force yourself to write something about what we about to write about right now. Think about it, sit with it, reflect on it, ponder on it. And then as things start to come to you, write them down on the page. Write it down. Don't just try to keep it in your brain and save that note for later. No, write it down somewhere. Notes out in your journal, on a sticky note. Write it down. So let it come to you, but definitely take intentional time. I set the 15-minute time frame because that's a good enough time for you to think about it, write about it, think about it some more, see what comes up, and kind of really let it be a full kind of becoming. But today we'll honor just the slowness of the processing of letting things come to us, especially because scarcity is something that it's a lot more complex than just looking at it in one specific area of our life. I mean, you can, but I invite you to think about a much bigger picture of what's keeping you small. Like, really get to the root of it, the core. And that's going to take some time to think about and look at. So, the mint, the fresh mint is really a different edition. That's a different hit. It already has the spearmint and the peppermint, but the fresh mint really takes it to another level. If you've never had Italia Bliss, please, MAATI'S Get you some Italia Bliss. I hope you brought your tea today. I forgot to say that at the beginning, but I hope you brought your tea today. I hope that you're sipping something, water, tea, something to hydrate and add to the grounding of your space. The prompt that we'll be writing from today is in the zine. All the prompts that we write from will be in the zines, but they come from my journal, so I'm going to read it from my journal. Um, we're looking at the scarcity narrative specifically, so if you're taking notes, that's a really good little headliner to kind of guide your thinking in this process. The prompt that we'll be writing from is, where does scarcity show up in your life? Period. Where does scarcity show up in your life? Period. If you need to draw a circle, scarcity in the middle, and web it out to all the different areas that it shows up, and then you can, write about it, expand on it. But where is it showing up? Take a moment to look at that. Let's look at that. And then I want you to really dig a little deeper. Like I said, we want to get to the core. And I want you to think about what parts of yourself feel most pressured or most rushed. Because the thing about scarcity, especially in terms of thinking about it, not just in relation to what we've been conditioned to think about as small, or what we feel like we need to embody that is not normal or natural to the reality that we live. Like, if you don't feel like you the type of person that needs to work a 9-to-5 job, then why is that something that you're constantly pressuring and putting on yourself to make fit into your reality just because you were told you need to do that? Small example. But I want you to think about the parts of yourself that feel pressured, that feel rushed, that feel small. And in looking at those aspects of yourself, we're now looking at the shadow. We're now looking at the parts of ourselves that we've been told there's no room in the world for these things to exist. There's no room in the world for these things to be a part of our reality. We're going to look at them. We're going to name them. And in looking at that, these can be extensions of the different areas on your web. Scarcity in the middle, all the different areas in your life where scarcity shows up. Building on that, now we're looking at all the different parts of our lives where we feel small in relationship to the different areas that we can identify that scarcity mindset, that scarcity energy, that small-minded thinking that I don't really want enough over here. I'm not really thinking big enough, dreaming big enough. I just take the bare minimum type stuff. No more breadcrumbs. Yeah, no more breadcrumbs. That's the thing that I want us to walk away from this process really understanding, is that there's more that you could probably want, embody, create in every area of your life, exist in every area of your life. And first, what we want to do is look at the places where we're playing it small, where we're existing small, where we're giving ourselves permission to just do the bare minimum, when you could be doing more. You could be giving more, you could be contributing more, and it may not even necessarily be, oh, what happened? Okay, we're back. It may not necessarily be to other people. You may not necessarily be giving more people your time or your money or your energy. You may just be redirecting that same energy back to yourself, but in other places. Like I said, other places where you were thinking small, showing up small, just small. You're bigger than that. We're bigger than that. So let's look at the places where that smallness is existing, where that energy is leaking, and let's tighten it up real good. Now, we're going to take 2 minutes to write. Last time I played us a little music in the background. We're not doing no music this time. I want you to just sit in the silence, sit in the stillness, and sit with it. Really sit with where you're being small, where you're playing small. Again, for the folks who are coming in, welcome to On the Page. We about to start writing. The prompt that we're writing from today is, where does scarcity show up in your life, and what parts of your life feel pressured, rushed, or small? Where are you playing small, thinking small, being small? That's what we're about to get ready and write on. I'm going to give us 2-3 minutes to write. Like I always say, honor your needs. Go to the bathroom, go get your tea, drink some water, go get your journal, go get a pen, tighten up, get it together. I'm going to set a timer and we're going to start writing. And I'm good for saying I want to keep it short, but If you don't know, I'm Tamiel and I like to talk. So keeping it short is, I don't really know, but I'm going to try to keep it brief. All right. I got the timer set for 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 30 seconds on the clock. Let's start writing. Where does scarcity show up in your life? What parts of yourself feel pressured or rushed? Or where are you just feeling and thinking small altogether? Where does scarcity show up in your life? Oh, I have enough time. Okay. Take 10 seconds to wrap up your final sentence. This is why I say 15 minutes is enough. Because once you get to thinking and writing, it's like, okay, yeah, like, yeah, yeah. I'm going to wrap up this last sentence and then I'm going to come back to share what I kind of got into. And then if you're here, I invite you to join me in the chat and just share a little bit of what you got into as well. Okay. And we're back. And we're back. Cheers. I won't do 3 minutes again. 3 minutes is not enough. Yeah. 2 minutes and 30 seconds is not enough. 15 minutes is adequate. So when we come back next Sunday, 11 a.m., we're going to do our 15-minute little thing and we're going to let it rock. But I did get to get a little bit into what I think my own personal scarcity narrative has allowed me to look at and witness. And I don't know if I want to read it directly off the page, but what I did kind of notice that I started with still was, the very specific areas in which it shows up. I talked about stability, security, especially because right now in my life, I'm in a position of transitioning out of working a full time job, which I've been working a job since I've been able to work so far in my life. So there's always been this tension between feeling how capable and able and gifted and talented I am, but still not really knowing if I have the courage to fully bet on myself. And so it was interesting that I started my entry looking at like, oh, okay, like I'm getting ready to quit my job and start navigating around ways that I can lean more into my potential to provide for myself and my stability and my security, but also kind of reframing for myself this idea of where stability is supposed to come from. Like, yeah, I could go to a job and trade off this set amount of time and get this set amount of money and know what to expect from that exchange. And I think that that is a very natural way to want to pursue it. It's a very, I think that for a lot of us, it's a very comfortable way to know and to trust that we'll be able to attain a certain level of comfort. Just, at least be able to put a roof over my head, food in my refrigerator type stuff, right? But again, in the context of just thinking a little bit bigger than that, thinking a little bit bigger in terms of how I can have more authority and how I'm providing that stability for myself, I got to talking about the tension that I feel with that. And I noticed that it was interesting that as I started getting into it, that's why I don't know if you were still here, but I had to take a little pause in my writing because I'm like, oh, yeah, I know when scarcity shows up. But then I was like, wait, there's an area here in specific that I know it's hard for me to put into words all the time. But I think that that's also because that's a part of me that doesn't really want to name it or say it out loud or be like, oh yeah, that's what that is. But when it finally came to me, I'm like, oh, okay, that's what it is. Like, and what did I write? And I guess I could say my perception of what I'm capable of is one of the areas in which I see scarcity showing up. To put it plain and simple, I have a hard time just believing in myself, period, point blank. I have a hard time trusting that I, myself, and my ability and my potential have what I need to make it to be able to provide for my needs, whether that be basic or whatever, to be able to give myself what I'm wanting out of life, to believe that I have it in me to be able to produce that. And what is that? Fear, doubt, again, imposter syndrome, all of these things that tell me that I guess I'm not enough, or I'm not talented enough, or I don't have enough knowledge, or I don't have enough money, or I don't have enough time. But in a reality where, me allowing myself to see a version of myself that has all of that, then what is the excuse? What is the excuse for me to continue to allow myself to exist in places or spaces that allow me to be comfortable, but don't allow me to really grow? That was the thing with my job. It was comfortable. I could have kept doing it. I could have kept putting my pride aside and, hoping that the next time they'll honor my expertise, or the next time they'll honor my qualifications, or they'll honor my potential, thinking that the next time there'll be an opportunity for me to feel seen, and continuing to waiting for them to give me that instead of putting myself in a space, in a place where I'm commanding that, where I'm saying, you know what, when I'm showing up here in this space and offering my time, my energy, my resources, the trade-off that I'm leaving with is I know that my work brings value. I know that this is where I'm bringing an impact. I know that this is helping me expand my container and grow into the things that I can see possible for my life in the next 1, 2, 5, 10 years. Like, I don't want to still be here 10 years later waiting for somebody to tell me that I did a good job, or to say thank you for all the ways that I've contributed to the dream that they have, to the vision that they have, to with the impact that they wanted to make in the world. Like, I want to make an impact too. There's space and place for me to bring value and contribute good ideas and good energy to the world too. And I want to give that. Like, I don't want to just continue to feel dimmed and small in places that are not big enough to hold all that naturally comes with me. And yeah, so I ain't get to write all of that, but that was on the other side of me thinking about the reality of there is a shadow aspect of me that can honor that I'm not as invested in my own personal empowerment, which is what I did write about, as I am in that of others around me. Because when it comes to my community, I'm very invested in reminding people of how capable, able they are to create the world that they want, how much they should strive and go and thrive for the things that they want, how big they should dream. But, and me honoring my own wanting, my own yearning, I don't allow myself to yearn enough. I don't allow myself to want enough. I don't allow myself to believe that I can have the things that I want, that I can give myself, align myself with opportunities, with people in the right time, in the right space. I'm not really convinced that I can do that, even though I have the proof. It's not like there's not evidence of that reality. So that's where, again, I'm feeling that tension, because how can you not believe in what you've already done and what you've already proved to yourself? I've already proved to myself that I can, in fact, provide for my needs and my own potential. Leaning into my gifts, honoring the time and the value spent and the work that I do, and seeing the way that other people honor and value that too, and seeing the trade-off in that in ways that supports me beyond just the physical, beyond just me needing to pay my bills, me making enough money to be able to go and get at to somebody else, beyond just that, like substance, real substance and reciprocity in my exchange. And I'm wanting to lean more into that alignment. That's naturally where I can feel my spirit wanting to go towards. So in honoring that process, I'm also honoring that this container is no longer big enough. Whatever I wanted before, whatever I was doing to pursue my wanting and my yearning before, I could do more. I can yearn more. I can want for more. I can put myself in places and around people who can expose me to more, so that I can know what exactly it is that I need to be aiming for. And I think that that's okay. I think that it's okay for me to be able to look to the things around me and to be able to invite exposure in, but to allow it to align with my own internal composition of what I want, what feels good for me, what makes me feel like there's room and space for me to get bigger and better and wiser and stronger, and not just in physical strength, but in my endurance, my ability, my motivation and ambition to execute and to go get it, and to not just want. Because I've wanted a lot in my life. I've wanted so many things in my craft, in my writing, in my business, in my community. I've wanted for things, but I think I finally feel bold enough to really claim it, and to not just want it, but to actually take the steps to get it and to have it, and to be able to maintain it and to steward it, which is one of the things that I really wanted to focus on this year, was stewarding what I have and honoring what I have as a foundation, as a position from which I can build from. Like, trusting that what I've built up until now is enough for me to keep building on it. Like, I don't need to keep starting over, which is, again, going back to the way that we're looking at our scarcity narrative. You don't need to just dispose of everything that you've needed to get to where you are. That some of that stuff helped you survive, like helped you still be able to be here. A lot of what it took to get here helped you thrive. And that takes some honoring. That takes looking at what worked and what didn't. And this goes back to one of the very first videos that I shared here on this platform, The Woman in the Garden, is just looking at where we're at, holding ourselves where we're at, holding space for ourselves where we're at, so that we're not moving into the next version of ourselves, looking for somebody to validate them, looking for somebody to give them permission to be as big as they're about to be, because they're going to be bigger than you are right now. And you don't think that's going to take some validating, some reassuring, no, you really are who you think you are. No, you really need to be able to give yourself that first before you even look to anybody else around you. Once you step into that, it is going to be different. It is going to feel different. That's what we talked about in the last session, that tension of what was comfortable versus what's uncomfortable. But most of the time, what's uncomfortable for us is what's pushing us into what's next. What's next? And change is inevitable. You have to know to expect change. That's just a part of our experience here on this journey. But resisting that change, it's also you giving yourself permission to stay smaller. You giving yourself permission to not grow. And why are you giving yourself permission to do that? Give yourself permission to do something different that is going to serve you and guide you and direct you to the alignment that is going to bring you into your expansion. And we have to look at where we're playing small, which is what we did today. If you took some time to draw the web, hey, I'm all about using what you need to get where you got to get. It don't got to always look like that. My journal looks very different. Here go a web right here, because I'm telling you, baby, sometimes you need a web. Systems for ease. Sometimes you just need to just map it out, and then you can expand on it and make it make sense later. And that's okay. So if that was the system from which you explored today's prompt, keep building on it. Keep looking into those individual areas where scarcity is keeping you in a container that's no longer big enough for what you really want. Because you know what you really want, right? Or do you? Maybe we can rewind it a little bit and take some time to create a web and really look at what we really want to begin with. Because sometimes when you're moving into these newer versions of yourself, sometimes we don't slow down long enough to be able to honor that we don't want what we used to want. We don't want to be who we used to want to be. We don't want the life that we used to want. It's not even in alignment with who we are today. I used to want to be, partnered up and have the kids and have the family and have the dream job and have the college education. I used to want things that very early on, and living in my reality, I learned like, okay, I was told I had to want that, but that actually is not what I want. What I want is very different. And in order for me to be able to claim what I want in this world, I have to honor that what I want is different. Name what I want and honor that, okay, it's not the same, and make that okay for myself. Not look to anything outside of me to say, oh, well, I'm so-and-so age and it's so-and-so time in my life and I need to be, no, I'm doing exactly what I need to be doing right now, actually. And I see that in a way that I'm being aligned with the people and the opportunities that confirm right where I'm at. And so those are the signs that let you know that you're expanding in the right direction. And it's okay to turn it around. It's okay to reroute and be like, you know what? I thought that was what I wanted, but that's not actually what I want. And now I'm going to go this way. Who gonna check you? Who gonna check you on making that decision for your life? Nobody. So claim that. Take that power back, take that authority back, and claim that fully. and keep building on what we talked about today. Keep naming where you're playing small. Keep looking at where you need to be thinking and dreaming bigger, and do exactly that. And let me see. I don't have any more notes for y'all today. Um, oh, I do. So, like I said earlier, the zines will be on the MAATI'S Tea Time website. I write in the zines. Like I said, the prompts are already in here. Everything is already in here. I've made it look real pretty and yeah, for you. But I actually write in them. I provide journal space for you to write in them. This is the prompt we wrote from today. There's a few pages to write from it. And then next week we'll be leaning more into an affirmative practice. So claiming some language to help us really change the mental processing of everything that we've been talking about. Because it's one thing to talk about it, but and really changing behavior and changing habits, we really have to shift the mental paradigm. So next week we'll be having a conversation about what that language needs to look like so that we can start talking different in alignment with the thinking different. And what else? I have a surprise offering that I kind of dropped on y'all last week. I'm gonna drop it again this week. I want to incorporate the teas and the zines in like an automatic process, you get it type of thing. So on my website, I've set up a monthly subscription type of service that I'm working out. It is on there now for one of the first blends that I'm curating for February. So one of the first blends that I'm curating is called Ink Still Wet. It's a hibiscus based blend. It's just general type of flavor focused blend. But we're still going to get into, MAATI'S Tea Time. I still kind of guide you in the history and legacy behind why we use the plants that we use. So that'll be over there at MAATI'S Tea Time. But that's the blend that I'll be drinking next time, and then continuing to bring it to the space for the rest of February. And then also making available to y'all to drink with me for our tea time. Because we're doing this every Sunday, 11 a.m. I said it was going to be short, but it's never brief with me. So next Sunday, 11 a.m., we'll be back and we will be writing for our full 15-minute little ritual time. So be ready for that. Tea time offering on the website, maaatisteatime.com. And what else? Substack. So if you don't already know, I share a lot of what I write about and talk about here on my Substack, which is a writing platform that sends you out a newsletter about what I'm writing about, what I'm talking about, all that type of stuff. So if you want to continue to, write and read with me and see what I'm writing about, that's a place to go and get all of that at The Woman in the Garden on Instagram and on Substack and on YouTube. The Woman in the Garden, period. And that's it for today. We did our time. Go out, enjoy your Sunday, be embodied, drink your tea, finish your tea, and please keep writing. Please keep writing. Please keep reflecting. And I'll see you next Sunday, 11 a.m. Peace.